Alyssa, I'm wondering if we could promote Katie and then maybe we can see if we know where folks are. I know that Charlie was supposed to be on, but I don't see Charlie either. So, hi, Katie.
Can you guys hear me? Say no. Jennifer, say no, you cannot hear me.
We can't hear you. I'm sorry, Tony.
What is the holdup? It's 3:06.
I was gonna see if Katie had heard from any members of the Vail board.
Yeah. I'm on the Vail board, sort of.
Or you, have you heard any members of
No,
the
but they're employed. Sometimes people are working and stuff. But what about the mayor and Charlie?
No. Our quorum.
So I know that that there was a quick meeting that was happening related to the BRIC grant. And so I was anticipating that Charlie would be here to get us going. Oh, here he comes.
Okay. But we have Katie Mulkey, but I don't see, there's nobody in participants who's a member of the Vail board, Jennifer?
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody. Katie, have you heard from anyone?
Katie? She's muted. Well, I'm going to mute Charlie if you want to start. There's nothing to start, but there's just me and Shelly and you.
Yeah.
Shelly, I move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Well,
All in favor? Aye.
I see you guys next week. Yeah, we just got to have another meeting. I'm sorry, I was ready to run home. So, Jonathan, I think it's still another meeting. So, and Katie, is she with the Vail board?
Katie's the staff, right?
Oh, okay.
Vail board.
Sorry, Katie.
Katie works for the Glenwood Springs Police Department, Charlie, and she is the staff head of the Vail board.
Okay. Katie, can you unmute? Oh, there you go. Waiting for Katie to get on here. So,
Well, we don't have a quorum on council. Should we reconvene at 3:30?
yeah, I just want to talk to Katie for a second. I thought we might just do that. I'll text Jonathan. I know he's meeting with Deborah and Carl right now on something else. So,
Well, what are they talking about? Do I have to file a core request to find out?
yeah, they're talking about you.
I bet.
I don't
I
even
think
know what they're
it's
talking
the BRIC. It's the BRIC grant.
I don't know what.
about. No,
The South Bridge.
That's-
Oh, so.
FEMA brick. Thanks.
Yeah, the big FEMA grant.
Yeah, and so I just left City Hall a few minutes ago. Katie, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I had to switch computers. I was having some audio issues.
That happens. It's one of the problems of the system. Do you know if any members of the? Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, I was just going to ask
Do you
Katie,
know
do you have any members of the Vail board were coming?
I think Avis was planning on it. There was some confusion about the time though, because I had one email that said 3, one that said 3:15, and one that said 3:30. So there might just be a little confusion.
Well, let's do this. Let's reconvene at 3:30. I'm gonna stay on. If somebody comes on, from the Vail board, Katie, I'll talk. I don't have authority to promote people, but Jen's here. Maybe she can do that if we need to, so. And, Shelley, if you and Tony just want to come back at 3:30, the next item is the, strategic vision discussion, so.
Will Rick be calling in for that?
I think so.
Oh,
I
good.
think he's calling in your conference call. I think you have to get out when he's on, Tony.
All right, I will. And then at 4:30, there's the chambers discussion, but then that's on the agenda again. Someone has to clean up these. Okay, thank you.
I think
Right.
there's a discussion going to be at 4:30, Tony. I think it'll be fairly brief, and then the actual approval, if we're going to approve funding for fixing the council chambers, will be at the during the council meeting. If we can't approve it during the work session,
Because there's
so it's
two
just an idea.
major items on the board, Charlie, here. It's number 12 and 13 that are going to take a long time, so. But
Yeah.
whatever. All right, so I'll just
One
come,
won't take long.
well, I'll just hang out.
13 will take a while. I don't know how long the zoning amendments will take. We got to go through each one of those. That's going to take some time to describe. There's no
But
question,
12,
I guess.
well,
12 is a proclamation. That won't take long.
no, not 12.
Yeah.
The marijuana, special
No,
use.
Yeah,
21.
I suspect that one's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
13 will take a while. I suspect 15 will take a while. So those are the ones I think are gonna take a bit longer. Hopefully
Yeah.
we can move through this really quickly. So,
Okay.
Okay,
all right. Well, I'll see
I'll come back.
you back at 3. Yeah, I don't know where everyone else is. And Katie, I'll keep an eye out for Vail people. Wait a minute, we got somebody who's an attendee.
Yeah, or we can listen, if the Vail board shows up and there's information, I'll turn my video off, but I'll have the speaker on. If somebody shows up, I can pop back on. If we want.
That's fine. And what we can do, Katie, if you don't mind just being unmuted, hanging out until 3:30, we get people, we could take that up at 3:30 and we certainly want to meet with them. Hey, Ingrid. We adjourned the meeting because we didn't have an agenda. We didn't have a quorum, so we're all going home.
Oh, dang it. Okay, cool. I'm good with that.
We're gonna adjourn to 3:30. The Vail board, Katie from the police department's here, but none of the Vail board members are here. And the mayor is tied up in a brief meeting regarding the brick grant. So they're running a little bit late. I just left City Hall another meeting, so they're running a little bit late.
So we're gonna all pop back on at 3:30 is what you're saying.
Yeah, you can stay muted if you want to be around. And if we get the brick grant people, then the Vail board people will take them up at 3:30. I think we'll just bump that back a little bit. So if they
Okay.
don't, then we'll reschedule that. Okay.
I'm so sorry. I thought we were 3:30 today. I don't know why I had that in my mind. And so I was actually on the phone with Steve Davis at about 7 after 3. So he's going to be getting on here shortly too. So
All right.
thank
Well, I'm going to hang out. I'll watch for people. I know what's going on. Okay. Thank you. Hey, Steve, can you hear me? I don't know if you can. We'll see if we get you promoted. I can't promote you. We're gonna start at 3:30 if you can hear me. We were running late and Avis, are you, if you're on the Vail board, if you could just hold on, we're gonna try to start a little bit later. We had some issues with timing, I think. So if you don't mind holding on, we'll pick you up at 3:30. Just does that works? You can give me a thumbs up if you can do it on your screen. I can't let you in. I can't activate
Yeah.
you. So
I'm here, Charlie.
okay.
I know there was an option to just run late like that. Is that?
Yeah, we're running late and we had Tony and Kelly at 3, and I think Avis
Who
is
is-
on the Vail board.
Who is we? And why nobody's here and it said 3:30, 3 o'clock.
Jonathan's in a meeting with the brick grant that was running late. I was over at City Hall and I left and came over here to my
Oh.
house, and so they're running a little bit late. And I was just going to go ahead and do the Vail board, but Avis was a little bit late getting on, and Katie, who is the staff representative, was on the meeting at that point. So
All right. No big deal.
So-
Gives me more.
people are just on hold, and as soon as we get everybody here, we'll start at 3:30.
All right.
Charlie, Avis is on. Do you want to reschedule?
Yeah, let's reschedule this whole thing for next week.
We already adjourned the meeting when you weren't here. So we'd have a quorum, so we could do that. Yeah, Jen, what do you know? Can we do this at the beginning of the May 20th meeting?
We can certainly try. I don't know what else is just off the top of my head what is on that, but we can certainly put it on for May 20th. And I don't know if Avis, if we can allow, and Tim, I'm assuming Tim may be also from the Vail board, could say whether that works for them.
Avis and Tim, can you unmute, or somebody out there that can control and promote them? Jen, can you promote them? You have that ability?
Alyssa, can you help?
I didn't see Alyssa, that's why.
I can help. I'm sorry, I'm doing two things. Tim Mitchell is our new deputy clerk.
Okay, great.
What do you need?
And then but Avis, can we have Avis give the permission to
promote?
talk or promote? Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome.
And Tim.
Is Tim also on the Vail board? Because I believe he's our deputy clerk.
Oh, Tim is our
Could be
new
wrong.
clerk.
I could be mixing up names because this is a new person who just started last week.
Yeah, Tim is the new deputy clerk.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And,
All right. Avis, are you there?
I am. I'm Avis Larita and I'm on the Vail board.
Okay, so Avis, we had some glitches today. And I apologize for that. If we reschedule this, maybe for 2 weeks from now, the 20th, or maybe to the first meeting in June, can you rejoin? I apologize for today. We too many meetings this afternoon. We're getting back to back and we're jammed at 3. So will that work with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we will get to Katie and make sure she gets out to you and gives you the new date. As soon as we get everybody back together at 3:30, we'll try to arrange and see when that best fits in the future agendas, and we'll let you know as quickly as we can.
Okay.
And I apologize for the confusion today.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Hey, Ryan,
yeah, what's up?
you got a pencil?
I got a pen.
My address is 1500 And I guess I have an inbox there at the city. And occasionally somebody grabs all the junk mail out of the inbox and mails it to me.
Mhm.
And you can just hold on to that stuff. There's, unless it looks like it's, a collection notice or something. So last week or so, it got mailed to some different address in Glenwood. And those people, seeing that it was coming from the city clerk, thought it was just critically important. So they took it to my store. My store took it to the post office. They then expedited, shipped a $15 postage envelope to me. And there's nothing in it but junk mail.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I've been keeping the collection notices aside. So I'll just forward those to you.
Yeah, I just hold on to that stuff. And
Okay.
You
I
can
appreciate it,
you
Graf.
can email the collection notices to all of us so we can share them with Steve.
Yeah.
All right.
Typically, the only thing that shows up in that inbox, honestly, is like these newsletters from CML or something. And you can just put those in Charlie's inbox, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Charlie, you got a big stack.
I should have looked. I was just over there.
You got
Yeah,
to
you
walk.
can leave mine- Yeah, you can leave mine in the box. I get everything from the CML directly. So anything from CML I'm gonna get anyway. So
Good deal.
You got to actually walk into City Hall, Charlie?
well, I had to get 3 passes and 4 security guards and have triple mask, and then I got in.
Huh.
Jen, when do they? I thought City Hall was partially open now. Does that start next week?
So we're at 50% capacity for internal and by appointment. So we have had some meetings and then we're moving to 75% on the 17th. And I think 17th. And then June 1st is when we'll open to the public and we'll do a week of kind of limited hours. And then I think the plan is to open regular hours the following week. So the very beginning of June.
I saw that email, but I was thinking that you guys are already open to the public. So my memory did not serve me correctly.
We've had a few meetings, I think, bid type meetings and, various meetings with state officials, that kind of thing so far, but not fully open yet.
Yeah. So Steve, are you back or are you still in Texas?
I don't know what you're talking about, Charlie.
Oh,
I'm-
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Are you, how is Skunk Hollow?
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
I misinterpreted you.
Run off the start. Looking forward to a rafting season. It's going to be a short one, I think.
I think so. At least it stayed cool and we've got a little more moisture up high, but I agree. We're gonna have maybe 3 weeks if we're lucky. I got a big boat. I can run the Roaring Fork. It's got to be 1,200 or above when I can run it with my cataract. So I have to get in there early in the season.
Hi, Jennifer. Can you hear me now? I switched computers. Can Steve Davis hear me, do you think?
I do. I hear you.
Okay, good. Hi, Steve.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, I'm going to mute. Thank you, guys.
Ryan, did we get the information on the bid on city council chambers? That they get into the agenda packet? I didn't see it last night.
So let me take a look at that.
Hang on, let me look at, maybe it's been added since I looked last night. I talked to Deborah about it a while ago. Now it looks like we just still have the staff report, so. Jen, do you know if we have that, just get it out to council?
I know that Steve is planning to go through it, but yes, I think we can if it's not in there that we'll, I know that Steve was planning to go over the specifics.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I thought it was gonna be in the packet. I hadn't seen it there, so. So if the mayor hasn't joined us at 3:30, we'll start and talk about strategic vision. I don't want to get any further behind in the agenda.
I have a vision where everyone's at the meeting.
That would be nice. This has been an unusual couple of weeks.
Yes. Charlie, did Zach talk to you?
Parsons?
Charlie. Zach Parsons, yeah.
No.
Okay, he'll give you a ring.
Huh?
He will
Is he gonna
call
reach
you.
out to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not about city council, it's about legal stuff.
Then I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, maybe you should.
We see Deborah's here, so.
Just walking up to my office. It's been a crazy day.
Yeah, so Deborah, Katie from the city staff was here for Vail Board, and one of the Vail Board members, I let her go, told her we try to reschedule the Vail Board at a later board meeting. Katie, I don't know if she's still here now. Let me see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
No?
we texted with Joseph on that.
Second.
Texting with Joseph on that. So yes, we'll get them rescheduled.
Okay. So Katie, if you want to drop off, you're welcome to stay here, but if you want to drop off, feel free to do that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you, Katie. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Bye.
Is Jonathan going home?
He's running home. Carl was running up to get something signed and then is going to run over to his office. So you're stuck with just me.
Well,
But that's okay
do
because
that.
I think the next two are just my stuff.
Yeah, all right. So can we get Brian or whoever, or Melissa, can we get full screen here and we'll get started? my screen. Hang on a second. Yeah, sorry, my computer just said something funky.
I just want to tell you all that I'm very yellow tonight, and it's not like jaundice or anything. And if anybody knows why my camera looks so yellow, I'm taking feedback. I just tried to do the settings myself, so, but my liver's fine.
It's a filter.
You know, I don't know. Mine does that sometimes too.
Yeah.
I don't,
Okay.
I don't really know what does it, but
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. So anyway, if anybody knows, please feel free to send me a update on how.
Yeah, you
Okay,
look like
so why don't we get,
you look like a 50-year-old for photograph.
Dude, I totally like, and there's mom's prom picture from 1972.
those pictures they took at the carnival, they had 4 of them for a quarter, or whatever it was. So, all right, let's get started. The first topic we're going to talk about is the strategic vision. And Deborah, you said you're going to lead with that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, as the far majority of council was on council, with the exception of Ingrid, when we put this together. You know, we've never even sent these out because they arrived in my office like the week after we closed City Hall due to COVID. So what I was really hoping to get from you guys is it still good? Do you still feel like it reflects what we need to do after, you know, what is probably the hardest year, hopefully any of us will have? And then once we kind of touch on that is, do you feel like the strategic goals are still relevant? Some of them are done. Do we want to revisit them ahead of the budget process? And if so, kind of what do you want that to look like? So this is really just a check-in to see if we need to do more. And if we need to do more, I'm going to recommend I've already kind of talked to the partner of Janess Brewer. You guys met Janess, who I think can help us with some of these things, because we'd have to do it pretty quickly. And I just don't have the bandwidth to take us through it like I did last year or 2 years ago. So first question would be, how do you guys feel about it?
Ingrid, any thoughts as the new council member? I'll come to you, Shelley, next.
I was comfortable with the list. I thought the list still had a lot of relevance. And I was comfortable with kind of just the direction it was going and the overview it covered.
Okay. Shelley?
I feel the same way. I thought the document came out really nice. It's a good comprehensive list of kind of the basics, and it sets good priorities. So I liked it. I'm curious, who will it be sent out to, Deborah? When you say it wasn't sent out.
It just wasn't, like, they're all sitting just in my office. Like, it just became, I kind of figured, like, if we started trying to, I mean, of course, the media got it, and it's on our website, and, you know,
Right.
people realize that they're paying attention. We did it, but it felt, you know, in the middle of COVID, sending it out to people seemed not appropriate.
Okay. I had a few items that I wouldn't mind discussing adding it to it, but if it's going to be a huge process and a lot more expense, maybe we call it good for another year and then adjust it next year. But so let's see what other people have to say.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Tony?
You can hear me, Charlie, okay?
Yep.
So, you know, I have to agree with Shelley, but I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of this. I mean, my basic priorities, of course, are infrastructure, and then maybe RMI. And my pet project has always been, I think we need to fix that doggy park. But I mean, as a working document, I don't have any big issues with it. I don't think it's missing anything. So, I mean, I'm fine with it. You know, I think if we learned anything, Ingrid, when you weren't here, but certainly when you joined the council in 2020 and that whole year, and even the first few months of this year, is that, you know, men plan and God decides what's going to happen. And, you know, we can't predict the future. Nobody knows what's going to happen. priorities change, strategy changes. There are city council elections and people leave and they come and people move away. So, you know, Rick Voorhees isn't here anymore and he had some ideas, and maybe in 2 years I'm not here anymore and the new person who replaces me is going to have some different ideas. So I'm fine with being in sort of a holding pattern. I can't agree with the city manager more that, you know, now's probably not the time to be like, look what we're doing with everything else that's going on. But now maybe we can look at it. I mean, I have no problem with putting it in a drawer and waiting till next year, keeping all of these things in mind, you know, but then something's going to come up, Charlie, in, you know, 3 months. Oh my God, we got to do this. There's this big problem at Hanging Lake and with I-70, and this is a priority. So, you know, that was always my issue with strategic plans. The leadership changes and the history and the facts change on the ground. So you have to be flexible. But as a general goal, I have no problem with it. Thank you.
Steve, do you have any thoughts, comments?
Well, I thought that now that Rick Voorhees is gone, we should take and completely dismantle this and rebuild it, start over. What do you think, Deborah?
No.
No? I don't think that we need to burden ourselves with this kind of thing at this point in time.
So something that I talked to some of you about over the last few weeks and brought up in a meeting when we setting the agenda last week. Does anyone see any merit? I mean, we're looking at July to start back in-person meetings. Does anyone see any merit of having a council retreat and spending a day just, you know, not necessarily talking about the strategic plan, but just where we're going to go, what we need to know, how we're going to run council meetings, maybe bring into that the code of conduct, which has been delayed because of COVID and other things, and talk about those things. It would seem to me if we could do that in person, that might be a good way to get us all kind of re-energized and, oh, that's what you look like in person kind of thing. Any thoughts on that?
Is it at Ingrid's house? Because I'm for that if there's cupcakes.
That's great.
I mean, are you thinking?
I just told me.
I was joking, Charlie, but are you thinking in person retreat?
Yeah, I'm thinking of an in-person retreat. I mean, I think I don't know about everybody else, but I think a lot of us have received the shots. We could do it, you know, maybe at rent a room at the Hotel Colorado or Hotel Denver. I think they still have some rooms to use that, and or a conference room, one of the other hotels, and just, you know, kind of have a facilitated conversation of, you know, how do we want to handle meetings? What do we want to do about, you know, groups that are coming and making presentations? I know a lot of the discussions we've had is meetings taking too long. We have presentations. It's important for people to come and present to us as a city council, but do we want to limit that, or do we want to continue to do that, or do we want to say you got 10 minutes and in 10 minutes we're going to pull the plug? And
how about a raft trip,
just
Charlie?
Pardon?
A raft trip on the Colorado. No,
we can do a raft trip to Colorado. We go horse thief and camp out at Black Rock. So,
okay.
I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on that kind of?
I think it sounds, I see Shelley being all official, which I appreciate by raising her hand, but I think that a collaborative day where we maybe kind of dial in some best practices for us, just like how we work together and what we want to see moving forward, is the best way to put it all out on the table and come up with some solutions for moving forward.
Shelley?
I guess I feel like we've done a lot of that, and I think we've come a long way. And, you know, with respect to the strategic plan, I see that as kind of a guiding document, which will help us move into budget. So if we were going to have a retreat, I'd rather have it be around that, and whether or not we want to make any, you know, kind of small tweaks or additions to the strategic plan, and then have that right before we go into our budget planning session. But and I know we still haven't gotten the code of conduct out, and and that kind of thing. We keep getting really, really close, but I feel like we've talked about that a lot, and maybe it just needs to come to a meeting and get adopted, but it's just.
I agree. And Shelley, part of that is, just got diverted to my calendar, and Carl and I have talked back and forth a couple times about it. But I think we need to bring it in and get everybody, okay, this is what we talked about, and here's a more condensed version, or here's a bigger version. Carl, I think, likes a condensed version. I think we need maybe a little more broader view of that. And Carl and I haven't talked about this for a few months, so I'm not trying to, and he can speak for himself. He's popped in here, but I think we do need to get that completed, and also the procedural, the piece of that, which was, I think, fairly non-controversial.
Right.
It just seemed to me if we had a time on to sit down and strategic plan is, and you said.
Yeah, I was
Go
going
ahead,
to say,
Carl.
Charlie, I think it's really just about, time on the agenda, frankly. I think you and I can get it ready to go by the next meeting. It's just a question of space, right? The agendas are long. There's some substantive stuff that is on there that is going to take time. And so I think that's a lot of why it keeps getting bumped. But certainly, I think, you and I can commit to finding some time in the next 2 weeks, depending on your schedule, to get it done and into the packet for the next meeting.
Okay, well, yeah, I was suggesting, we had talked last Thursday a little bit about a potential retreat, and that would be a subject in the retreat, and that doesn't have to be in the distant future. And Deborah said she's reached out to maybe a potential facilitator to help us do that. And that way, Shelley had mentioned before, some of you got on the meeting, that she had a couple tweaks to the strategic plan, but was generally okay with it. Everybody else was generally okay with the strategic plan. So, but we should have all the stuff in place. So as Deborah and Steve and Yvette start working on budget issues, they know where we're at. And I think generally speaking, most of us are comfortable with the current strategic plan and goals. So that gets kind of everybody up to speed that was coming in a little late.
So yeah, Charlie, I agree. What I heard from the majority of council was, we're good with it. In a perfect world, maybe some tweaks, but let's just go with it. And this is a good blueprint for us when we're putting together the budget for you guys to consider.
I agree. That's exactly what you heard correctly. So,
okay. Do we want to talk a little bit more about the idea of a retreat around council norms? Ingrid, you seem to show some interest in that. Charlie, I know you're interested. Jonathan, you're interested. I don't know where everybody else is on that. Or are we just good?
I think my interest in a council retreat is, I think, there's a lot of bodies that have it once a year as a form. I think I want to make sure we're really focused on what we want to accomplish. I mean, if we're good with the strategic plan, we just had an election, so we're all guaranteed, for the most part, probably to be here together for the next 2 years. I'm kind of interested in what specific things, what dog parks can we build? What splash pads do we want to look at? What are some of those things? Well, of course, keeping in mind our police and fire and infrastructure, but kind of reaffirming those priorities. But at the same time, if we have projects that are brought to us by community groups, or that we want to explore, how does that fit into the budget? And honestly, by the time we get something on the calendar for all of us in a month, June's starting to be, ask Steve Boyd, but June is when we in the financial advisory board, the financial advisory board starts to get initial blushes at the 2022 budget, is as crazy as that sounds. So it does kind of, I think to your point, Shelley, fit in fairly well with giving like overall guidance direction, maybe for what a 2022 budget might look like. And we will have the first approximate 6 months of sales tax to be able to make some assumptions.
Right. I also think a retreat would be nice, just to kind of let us get back together and discuss things in person and socialize before we start our back to in-person meetings. It'd just be nice to kind of reconnect.
This is totally you
So
guys.
Steve,
We're good with anything.
I'll just finish this second. I'll turn back over to the mayor. But Steve, you thought of the retreat? You haven't commented on it.
I was just hoping it would still be by Zoom. So
Sending beer by Zoom is awful hard, though.
You can send it ahead of time, Steve, and then I'll drink it.
Okay, Deborah, I think the consensus was yes.
You know, I think I really miss us getting together, and I think we really need to do that again and figure out if we still have social skills or not.
So I will shoot for June-ish. Who do you, Jonathan, Charlie, do you want to work with me with the consultant on what that looks like?
Sure.
Okay. And Carl, I would say you get to come to this fun and exciting event as well. I know you love them.
And I would say if anybody, you know, we'll put together a draft agenda because I want it to be, yes, social and be able to interact, but also very focused and outcome driven. But we'll get a draft agenda out for comments. And if people see things on there that they would like to see or are not seeing, then I think we need to allow for that bit of feedback to happen before we do a final agenda with the facilitator.
And I would say just something to keep in mind, we're going through that is, like, if you want to talk projects, we definitely need department heads, right? If you just want to talk about yourselves and how you interact, then we don't as much. So that'll just be something we work through. And of course, you're always welcome to have them there, or who can attend whenever date we pick. So, okay. That was quicker than I anticipated.
Mr. Mayor, we bumped the Vail board. We only had one member of Vail board, and she was a little bit late, so we're going to bump that to a later meeting. So, over to you.
All right, thanks, Charlie. We are very early. Maybe Charlie should do this more often. We never hear that we're very early.
There's only 3 of us to start, Tony, Shelley, and I. So
it turns out to be pretty quick that way. Deborah, would we be available? When would we be able to start maybe the council chamber conversation?
I think we can now. I mean, it is mostly me, right? It's a policy discussion as opposed to a technology discussion. The bid is on later on in the night for the technology part, but this is, you guys kind of said, move forward with the technology as if we will have hybrid meetings where, you know, people can call in, we can, you know, completely do everything we would like to do online, and then come back and let's talk about what we actually want to do. So this is the part where we talk about what we actually want to do. You know, do you guys want to have hybrid meetings that, you know, you're in the room, but and we have an audience in the room, but we can also take public input on Zoom like we have been doing? Do you want remote participation by council members? If so, you know, do you want us to bring back that, was it our ordinance, Carl? You're muted.
Sorry, 3 screens and I can't figure out which one I'm on, right? It was in the form of a modification to the current code. So it was in the form of an ordinance. Part of it is an interpretive question as to what appearing means or participating means pursuant to the charter. There needs to be some interpretation made by council if it's not in person.
And if I remember, I mean, I think for the benefit maybe of Ingrid and just maybe our collective memory, some of the highlights of that was, for example, you can't utilize it potentially more than 2 times a year. It can't be, if you're going to participate remotely in the evening, you also need to commit to participating in the work sessions prior. It has a provision for executive session. I think it was maybe you can't participate in executive session remotely. It had a provision in there for I can't remember everything, but basically it was all before COVID and before we were comfortable operating in this format and had the experience of it. So at that time, Ingrid, for your benefit, I think it was a 5-2-4-3 vote not to do it. But it might be, given our experience, a different conversation. So because it need to be an ordinance and a modification of the code, we probably need to have it back for a conversation at all. And since it's not in front of us to discuss, maybe it might make more sense to see if there's a general consensus. If we're at all willing to entertain us only on council being able to call in remotely in limited ways and forms and times, do we want to re-examine that and have that conversation at the next meeting? Go ahead, Charlie.
Whenever you take the hand down, then my screen moves and it's hard to unmute. I guess, and I kind of came in the tail end. That was happening just as I came on council a couple of years ago. And my experience with the Zoom and versus in-person meetings, so having had a year of each, I think in person, we accomplish a whole lot more as a council. I think be able to look across the dais and at Steve or you or Shelley or Paula and say, ABC has more impact than sitting in Zoom. And I think hybrid meetings and, with allowing people in the public to appear, I think helps encourage public participation. So I'm kind of in favor of that, but I'm not as in favor, other than maybe exceptional circumstances, where you're going to be out of town for, you got a chance to go down the Grand Canyon and you can somehow zoom in from Grand Canyon, you got to be able to do that or something like that. I think is okay, but I guess my view is still the in-person meetings are important, or for council members.
So I have no idea. I think what you said is, yes, we should probably have a conversation about participating in a limited way, but affirming that it's important for us all to be in person and making a strong effort. So maybe not making it super easy for three of us to be gone doing whatever, or it's just not convenient because it's nice here. Is that what I heard?
That's good lawyer interpretation. Not bad. Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask one quick question? Because you referenced me as like I wasn't part of that dialogue. Did all of that get written down, or was it just like a general? Okay, and is that something you guys have accessible? And
actually, and I was just pulling it up. It was actually in 2018, and I can and I'm sorry, we had kind of a couple of busy days with trying to get this grant across the finish line, as it were. I was going to email this out previously. I'll get it emailed out to you guys now that you can really take a look at it now. So we really had run through it. There was a draft ordinance that was voted down ultimately that would have allowed for electronic participation. The place where we, and as you know, we've had this sort of hybrid system of hearing a land use hearing on one night, waiting 2 weeks before we take action on it to ensure that there's ample opportunity for public comment. I think that's the one place where I still hesitate on doing a hybrid council participation, because it's just very hard if 5 people are in the room and 2 are not to really hear the same record, right? So any of the quasi-judicial stuff is really where I struggled the most with having electronic participation from the standpoint of risk to the city. Beyond that, it was really just trying to limit its use so that somebody doesn't move to another state or it just is permanently on vacation, whatever. And I know we've gotten a lot more comfortable with this now, and I think that's why we kind of wanted to bring it back as to if somebody's going to take a few months to live out of a van, is that okay with council or not? I don't know. So
I know you were looking at me, Carl.
I saw the minivan down by the City Hall when we were down there a few minutes ago, and
I pulled the keys.
Yeah.
No mad lane.
Yeah.
And I think there's things that, again, in a future conversation on an agenda item we can talk about, or maybe if it needs a work session, but maybe not having more than one person like that's easy. I think land use, Carl, I'd be curious, and you don't have to give me your opinion, legal or anything right now, if you want to think about it. But right now, if there's a continuation of a land use, so we take public comment, we have a part, we run out of time or whatever in normal times, and then we continue it on to another meeting. In the past, council people have been able to simply listen to the recording of that and then participate. Sometimes I believe on say having Six Canyon, there's a scenario where a council or two were not able to attend the first one. They didn't feel comfortable being a part of the second meeting. So if we allow right now for a council person to be absent the first part of the meeting in totalness, but only listen as a tape recording on YouTube, but still participate in the second part, why would them being present virtually be so dramatically different?
Yeah, I think what it is that I probably would recommend, if that person had missed everything except you guys continued it to make a decision, I would probably be inclined to recommend that council member not sit just for the decision, right? If you're halfway through an application, you've requested additional information, there's going to be more public testimony. That feels a lot different if you've caught up on the tapes, if you will. And that's really kind of what we're doing with planning commission right now, is that if it's a commissioner who didn't hear that first one before they get to the decision-making one, typically they're not participating in just the decision. Where I get concerned is that if Ingrid is, in Moab on a janky connection, and we're not really presenting, like right now, you guys all get the same information electronically, right? The same screen is up in front of you on Zoom. You are hearing the same testimony when you're all electronic. There's nothing going on outside of the camera. And maybe the technology will be so good in council chambers that we know that it's really a level of how can we deliver that information that we couldn't before. I don't know if we will be able to, after the technology upgrades, honestly, to be able to participate. But the risk is always that you don't hear something and it's a 4-3 decision and you voted one way or the other based on information you couldn't hear or see, right? And does that offer a fair process to the applicant? That's really always been my concern, is just preservation of a clean process. Now, if the technology is there and we can do that for you guys, where you can physically hear and see everything that's going on with the updates, and I think that's great. And I'd probably revisit that concern.
But I think the main question we wanted to ask you guys on that piece of it was, do you want to have the conversation again? Because if a majority of you don't, we won't bring it back. If a majority of you at least want to discuss it, we will.
Go ahead, Shelley.
I'm okay discussing it again, in light of the year we've had and how things have changed, but I'd like to hear, just have Carl lay out kind of all the legal implications as he's partially done here. And also just decide what kind of limits we want to put on it, because prior, we did have a limit of, I think, like 2 meetings a year or something. And is that still appropriate? Or, how do we ensure that we're still kind of meeting in person as a council and, but can conduct our business and allow a little bit of flexibility? So, yep, I'm open for it.
Steve Davis.
Well, I guess I've got strong feelings about this, and you don't want to hear them tonight. So that being said, I think we should probably discuss it again, and because I guess tonight's not the time to do that.
But you guys can, we have time. You certainly can.
This is the Ingraham angle, is it not? That we're talking.
Well, it was Ingraham Voorhees Godis, I think, was the losing votes on the last time we took that vote. If my memory serves me correct, and I think I would like to kick it to the next meeting, because we don't have in front of us, and wasn't in our packet, the ordinance. I think that would help define the conversation pretty clearly, and we could kind of go off of that as kind of the bar, if you will. So my preference would be that we do have the conversation, but we have it when we have the material, that ordinance in front of us, and we've had a chance to review it.
So it sounds like a majority of you want to have it on, we'll put it on an evening agenda. This way you can take action.
Feels good to me. Everybody else? Unanimous consent.
Okay, so let's switch to the harder conversation, which is what do you want your meetings to look like? We're going to make sure we have a technology in place to hopefully have successful in-person, and you'll have the option of taking, you know, having people participate online.
Go ahead, Steve.
If I can vote first, it's you have to be in person.
And do you have further comments on that, or that just?
No, I just think that, you know, I don't want to open it up to the public wherever in the world they happen to be to come into our chambers and start giving their 3-minute dissertation to us when maybe they live in India, but they think it's kind of interesting that they can do that. I think you have to go to the effort to actually put your clothes on and come downtown Glenwood and walk into the city hall and sit down in the chambers to express an opinion, or you can write a letter, as many people do, and often the letters that I read are actually more powerful than the in-person discussions that I hear at the podium. So I see nothing wrong with continuing with that. I really, really think it would be a bad idea if we just let anybody come electronically and start having 3 minutes. I think these meetings will get really long on some subjects like the airport. As you remember, 90% of all the comments that we got lived nowhere near Glenwood Springs.
Thanks, Steve.
That's all.
Shelley.
I guess I feel like what we've been through the last year, you know, has changed a lot of things, and it's opened up allowing participation. And I don't know, Steve, I just don't know how much of a problem we're going to see with people wanting to do that. I mean, the airport is an exception because people do fly in from all over the state. And I think for the most part, people who commented actually had experience with the Glenwood Springs Airport. Maybe there were 1 or 2 that didn't. But I feel like there's room for us to grow with the technology and allow some hybrid meetings. And especially if we're going to allow council members to come in electronically, how can we say no to our public? You're not allowed to participate electronically. I think that's a real double standard, and I don't know how we justify that. So if there's a way, you know, that we can kind of limit people, I can't imagine someone from India or wherever wanting to call just to talk at our meeting, but you know, if we start to have a problem with that, then we could put limits on that. But and as far as format, you know, I've been on a few of the county commissioner meetings. You know, they seem to be able to do it right now. They've got they're there in person. Their meeting is on Zoom or YouTube or whatever format that is. You can watch it, and then you can either call in or sign up to participate, and where they've got your name and everything in your email, and you can actually present to them. So I was thinking something like that would work for us.
Thanks, Shelley. Charlie. Unmute yourself.
Well, I won't say much because I tend to agree with what Shelley just said. You know, we're a representative government, and we need to listen to the constituents. And you are going to get occasions like the airport where you're going to get people that aren't in the city commenting on things. And frankly, those comments didn't bear much weight with me because they're not here and having to deal with the ramifications, whatever the decision is. And then the airport is just one of those examples. But if it becomes abusive and we have a problem with people calling in from India or people calling in from Florida or Texas and saying, well, yeah, my mother-in-law or my dad has a vacation rental there, and they show up 2 weeks of the year, and I really think it's not a good idea. If we start getting a lot of that, then I would say that we have to relook at that, and that might be something we could address in the procedural rules that we're talking about adopting. So, as I said, I kind of agree with Shelley. I think allowing the public to participate remotely, it's better. It's going to have more influence on me if they're there in person. But I don't want to prohibit somebody from giving input just because they have 3 kids at home. They can't hold them down and wait for an hour and a half at a city council meeting.
Thanks, Charlie. Ingrid.
I'm curious, Carl, do we have anything that stipulates that, like in our charter or anything, that we need to, or anything along those lines?
That you need to allow.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's definitely just a kind of a standard practice on any public hearing. The only place where that, let me qualify that, quasi judicial hearings, if you didn't allow any public comment, you'd wind up going up on a 106 like every time. Outside of that, the charter does require a public hearing on an ordinance. So outside of those 2 instances, there is no requirement to take either general public comment at the beginning of the meeting, or frankly, to have any public comment on any agenda item. It's pretty usual and customary almost everywhere that I've worked with to take public comment, but certainly not a requirement.
Okay. I guess for me, I think that right now, and I think it's been happening, but I think we're transitioning, our community economically is transitioning where we do have more second homeowners. And so I think it's not fair and it's very prohibitive to say, I'm sorry, you have to be in person, when they have a very vested interest in having their voice heard. So I'm inclined to create some version where we can hear those public comments, certainly from locals. Now, as far as the out-of-town people, especially the hearings where the land use hearings where we know that the public comment is going to be so lengthy, I would love to maybe see some derivative where maybe people have the option or are encouraged to write in or do video where they can submit a video, something where potentially we could shorten those meetings just for efficiency. But then at the same time, the community doesn't always hear all of the comments, which I think are valuable and part of the process. So I hope that in a nutshell, I kind of touched on a lot of things there, but I think I'm pretty consistent with Shelley and Charlie and see the value of public comment.
Thanks, Ingrid. I guess I'll give my 2 cents. I think I definitely see the value of public comment as well. I mean, I think we're all agreeing with that. It's not just the airport. The airport was just the thing that happened 2 meetings ago that we're all like, oh, wow, that happened. But if you weren't around for the vaping conversation, that vaping conversation, it's not the pilots who use our airport. It's when Joe Murkowski, who is the head of the vaping lobby in Colorado, brought a literal Greyhound, I don't know if it was Greyhound, it was a bus of people, of Front Range protesters to come in to protest our meeting. If they were able to sit in whatever place they were in the Front Range and be able to call in that lobby, I had much more comment. My inbox anyway was flooded with people who said, I'm never coming to Glenwood Springs from Texas, from Georgia, from wherever, about that issue. That was an incredibly powerful lobby, and we would have probably had a 5-hour meeting if we would have allowed this to happen and give everybody 3 minutes without any restriction. The riparian conversation, 10 of those people were not citizens of Glenwood or of 81601. They're citizens of Texas, of Lakewood, of other places. And so I think that it's not just, Charlie said, I don't want to prevent people from participating. Those people can absolutely participate. They can email us, they can write us, they can call all of our phones. I believe all of our personal phone numbers are listed. I will have a 10, even 20-minute conversation if you're nice with somebody on the phone. I read all the emails, I read all the letters. Sometimes I even respond to the emails, sometimes when I shouldn't. But everybody has an opportunity to participate. The act of participating in person, though, I do believe should be reserved for the citizens of Glenwood Springs. Charlie talked about, we need to listen to our constituents. My constituent is not in Texas. It's not about India or anything else, but my constituent is not a vape store owner that's been mobilized by a industry in Denver. It's not somebody who might inherit some property from their elderly mother at some point. That's not my constituency. The constituency is that elderly person who, yes, should be able to, if she needs to have a riparian zone that she can access and walk down 80 feet of relief, she can get down 5 blocks to our meeting. And I again, if she wants to participate, there's a lot of other avenues I think that are actually more impactful. And here's the thing, when we allow these meetings to go on an extra half hour or an hour, depending on who's able to mobilize, God help us when we have a land use issue like some of the things that might be in front of us that I will not mention now in the next couple of months. Those people will get people from all over. And if they're in the county, that weird county city interface, then that's fine. They can come down and comment on how this is going to affect their neighborhoods or their communities. I'm great with that. If they're being mobilized by other people, then I don't care to hear from that. And I don't want staff here until midnight. I don't want staff here for 2 or 3 extra meetings, because it's not just us and our time listening to people who aren't our constituents. I think that even if we did something where originally I was thinking, well, maybe if we could set a rule where we only take comment from people at least claiming to be citizens, that would help. But gosh, it's too easy. I've done this with other meetings where you just sit with the thing on, you have a glass of wine, you're doing something else. So it's like, oh, I kind of care, but I don't care enough to show up and actually give public comment. I care enough to get on and not have my face, and to, I think that promotes a certain anonymity and vitriol that I don't think is good for the political process. It is different when someone has to stand in front of you and call you a jerk to your face versus they're just calling in on a phone line. And so for those reasons, I don't think that I support it at this time. I think that, Shelley, it's not to your point. I think that's a great point, though. It's not two-faced to say, well, if we can participate electronically, they're not participating in our meeting. They're giving comment. And we have a number of other avenues for them to give comment. And something that's very contentious, usually they have several opportunities: first readings, second readings, public comments for items not appearing on the agenda. They have a number of opportunities to do that. So I don't think giving public the comment is the same as an elected official representing a district or the city participating as a rule maker. I don't think it's the same thing. Tony, go ahead.
Oh, fine. Nice, Jonathan. I can talk to you for 20 minutes, but if I mean, I only get 10.
Yes.
I disagree to the extent that I don't know why you're so opposed, Mr. Mayor, to people work hard, they come home, maybe they don't have time to run over to City Hall. And so what if they're having a glass of wine and watching, Judge Judy, and they want to call in and comment? I'm always for anybody who wants to, but I do agree with you that I don't think we need people from all over the country or all over the world calling in, unless it's somebody who lives here, is interested, and they just happen to be out of town. I mean, people travel. Let's say Miss Wusso and her kids have a soccer game in Junction. So she's in Grand Junction Thursday night for a tournament. Why can't she get online in her hotel and call in and comment and say, hi, this is Ingrid Rousseau from 222 3rd Street in Glenwood Springs, and I would like to comment. I think we should make it easier, not harder. Why are we putting up bars to people commenting? Because we don't want to hear what they have to say? I think that was the old council. That was a council where I had to file a core request just to get any information. That's a council where the government was not open. That's a council that doesn't want to hear from the public and is not interested in the public and is afraid, frankly, of what the public has to say. Now, under most circumstances, I think people, or particularly if they're interested, are going to come down to the chambers and are going to get up and speak. But if it's easier for them because of ADA reasons or because of family reasons, they don't have a babysitter, or for whatever reason, they want to do it from home and they live here, I really just don't have a big problem with it. And I think we should encourage public comment, not discourage it. Thank you.
Thanks, and I'll just respond real quick since you asked me. I think the difference, at least that I see to your question, is that everybody gets an opportunity to comment. There's a number of ways to do it. There's one very specific way. It's in person that we're talking about. And if Ingrid is gone on a vacation or anybody else is gone on vacation, again, email, phone calls, letters, faxes. There is very much an opportunity for everybody to comment and to weigh in. I think that was just probably I'm not trying to prevent people from commenting. I just want to make it more efficient for this body because we have struggled with, and that's everybody's complaint. Everybody's complaint is meetings go on too long. They're unfocused. We're here too late. Staff is worn out. Staff is burnt out. They're back here the next morning at 8 a.m. And I think this is one of those things that I can point to in a number of instances where we've been at meetings for an hour or more longer because of the world we're in right now. And so that's one of the things I want to be sensitive to as well. Go ahead,
Well, if I
Charlie.
may respond, Mr. Mayor, frankly, I think members of this council go on and on and on and on for 20 minutes, not the 3 minutes in public comment. In fact, if you go back these last meetings in COVID, public comment, with maybe one exception, it's been pretty limited. So I'm always for everyone who wants to participating, but you are right, that should be limited to constituents. So we agree and we disagree. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I love when we agree. Charlie.
Mine's more of a question. Carl, can we create a category of video participation that would, one, say you got to be visible, and two, you have to be a resident or some kind of property interest or something like that in Glenwood to participate remotely versus if you're not, you have to be there in person. Can we do that and avoid
we can try to do
constitutional issues?
Yeah,
Pardon?
we can certainly, drop the rules of decorum and procedure for the chamber any way that you would like. I mean, I almost feel like we're creating a solution to a problem that will become a problem once we create the solution.
I mean, how do we check, right?
Well, and I just think you're going to get a lot of people like then complaining about it as soon as you do that. Right. So I think that Jonathan identified the few cases where we have had significant outside participation. And I the one that sticks in my mind was the vaping lobby. They would have showed up via video or in person regardless. Right. Like, I don't think that would have changed that outcome. I think it, I think more and more jurisdictions are moving to feeling like creating as many opportunities for their citizens to participate as they possibly can is what they try to do. Certainly as far as providing comment. And I will tell you that, City of Rifle has for probably a decade or more had an open phone line that you can call into for citizens appearing before council on items not on the agenda that they've done for a very long period of time. And some people call in and some people don't. It's probably not as big of a participatory community as Glenwood can be at times. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's either you do it and it's open or you don't do it, but trying to tightly define it and then argue with participants over whether or not they qualify to be participating, I think that probably sends the wrong message.
Ingrid.
I think that Carl just beat me to it. That everything he just said was what I was going to say. I think that we need to be inclusive, even if at times it's cumbersome and clunky. I think if there was ever a time to have that open connection with the public, it's now. And opportunities, I don't see, and I don't have the history that you guys do, but I don't see that there's going to be that many opportunities where it's abused. But I think that if we put some parameters like that up there, we'll have more energy spent on managing that than we will the issues that come up from the occasional rogue person calling from, Illinois with an opinion about how we do something.
Thanks, Ingrid. Steve.
Well, I was the first to speak, and then I felt like I don't know, now I'm defensive about it, I guess. I certainly believe in public comment, and I want public comment. And I am most influenced by public comment that is reduced to writing. And that either comes to us typically by email, also by text. And I'm more influenced by that than I am the in-person that walks in, because I have an opportunity to kind of digest that better, I think. I am not against public comment. I just don't think that walking in is the only way to give it to us. So I wanted to get that out there. My next question, though, to Deborah is, as we go down this, here I am counting votes again, but how much does that cost? We don't have the technology to do that. How
Steve,
that happen?
we have tonight on the agenda, we looked at it late last night, but we're essentially going to ask to the technology part and some updates to the room that were discussed. We're gonna ask you guys, we got 4 bid responses, 2 are just way out of our budget. I think one is 120, one is 170, and we're gonna ask you guys for the ability to negotiate with the low bidder, and then if that does not work, go to the 170. So up to 170 is the answer, Steve. But I mean, a lot of that we have to do a lot of work anyway, because the technology is 25 years old and it's ruined, right? So, but that is what you're looking at if we want to have a modern council chambers where, we can do these type of things.
So if we want to take online comment, it'll only cost us $170,000.
That's doing the whole room needs to be redone. So, but that is what it's going to take. 120 to 170, somewhere in there is what we think it's going to take to have us have a room that is modern.
Yeah, and so I think what we can do, Steve, because it is in the packet for later tonight, and I know that Steve and Alyssa are available to talk about it then as to what that gets you and what it does. So it's not just for the public comment.
No, it's for the whole. It is literally 25 years old, and it was being held together with several Band-Aids.
Yeah.
I'm kind of counting the numbers too, and seeing that my argument's probably not winning the day. But I would ask for this if we were not going to get formal direction here. We'll probably come back before us in a formal action. But
I don't know if it will. I think this is enough for us to just keep going with the technology like you told us to, and then come our first meeting, hopefully in July, that's what we'll roll out with, hopefully.
And I get everybody's argument, Carl, we're going to put like driver's license up there. And like, I get that seems a little burdensome. But at the same time, I would ask, again, I think it's the anonymity of being able to call in and put whatever name you want up there and say whatever you want. It gives people, it's kind of the Facebook comment section or the paper. The paper actually is really bad at this because they allow people to have whatever pseudonym they want. And so people can comment and say the most vitriolic things that they possibly can. I would ask if we could require people to be on video when they give that comment. I think that that's a compromise that I would appreciate. I think we can at least see them. They can see us. It is like being in person in that regard. If we want to replicate that, then I think that that's something. Everybody's got a phone on their camera on their phone. Almost everybody's got it on their computers or laptops. It's not horrendously. If they can't figure that out, they can't figure out how to call in. They need to come down in person anyway. That would be something I really I would appreciate just as a city council person and as a meeting administrator. Shelley.
I just had a question. I keep hearing about this bid, but it's not in my packet and we haven't seen it yet. Can we get a copy?
I will ask Steve where that is. I'm not 100% sure.
Thanks. Okay.
And if I can, Jonathan, just comment. When I asked my question, Carl, can we do that? I just curious whether even that was legally possible. I'm not even suggesting that we would do that. I just thought we ought to at least know whether that's a legally possible thing. And I tend to agree with you. It's going to be participation remotely. And I think I said in my comments earlier, it ought to be visual. So.
How does everybody else feel about at least that requirement, that if you're going to comment, you need to have your camera on and be able to present in person?
I agree.
You know, Tony is not going to say it, but Tony was suggesting that we include the budget for holograms. And we have to do holograms. So I'm just throwing, I don't know that there's a budget for that. But that was joking. In seriousness, I am completely supportive. I think that if you're going to show up, you have to at least turn your video on and be present with that component. So.
Yeah, I would be okay with that also, or at least exploring it.
Okay.
So video only for like pictures, if you have to be on camera if you're going to, no, yes.
Video only.
Video only. Okay, got it. And I think, Jonathan, that would probably require you or whoever is running the meeting saying you have to do it. Like, I doubt there's a technology filter we can put out there to do that.
No, and I'm comfortable. I mean, people will get comfortable with it. I think I've been in other meetings where they require that. So I think at the beginning of the meeting, if there's something, especially if there's something contentious where there's going to be other people calling in from other areas or other interests, then I'll just make very clear in the beginning of the meeting. And maybe we want to make clear, I'm just thinking about P&Z, maybe letting, because there's some interest in some applications now. If you're going to call in, here's the new, maybe we get it out through our PIO that this is how we're going to do it. We want people to participate, but here's a few guardrails.
My guess is the PIO is probably listening. Yes, she is.
I cannot direct the PIOs.
I know.
You can. So I think once the technology is in place, and yeah, that's going to be the case. You know, right now, while we're still doing electronic meetings, I think we just need to keep grinding forward the way we are through June or whatever it's going to be.
Agreed.
And I'm sorry about the bits. We should, in a perfect world, but we weren't trying to hit July, the first meeting in July, we would have done it at the next meeting. So I think it's just, we're trying to get your approval. But yeah, we looked at them last night for the first time, so.
Yeah, I think we're really trying to get back in person as soon as we can and not in the middle of a construction zone.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other comments or direction any other direction the staff needs? Any other comments the staff has? Or council has? Or vice versa?
I think Paula showed up. We should all leave now.
I could just, we
Kidding,
can say it
Paula.
again tonight, but we had a great meeting today with the executive director of CDOT. We got more support for our BRIC grant, and we're just doing everything we can to push it over the finish line.
Okay. Buddy, that I guess we're adjourned back to
She was under the impression that she was moved because of a personal issue.
I think we're potentially hearing some attorney-client privilege information. As much as I want to unmute and hear the rest of it, because it sounded very interesting. We'll see you at 6:15.